In this episode, I've been pretty busy for the past 6 or 8 weeks doing landscaping to the front yard. There's some final finishing and a letterbox to build, but it's basically there. So today I thought we'll run through what I've been up to, the materials I've used and costings. So stay tuned. Happy New Year everyone. I hope you all had a lovely festive season with your families, wherever you are. I've been absolutely flat out for the past 6 or 8 weeks trying to get the landscaping on the house to the front yard nearly finished. And we've got some final finishings to do and a letterbox to build, but we'll run through what we've used and why we've done it. But first, there's something that I've never spoken about. It's the elephant in the room, and I've finally got an outcome to it, and we'll just go and have a look at it now. Now, one thing I haven't spoken about in any of this stuff with the house is the cut next door to us. It's a 1.4 metre cut from our land height, the original land height, and then it's a 3 metre cut in from that for the basement on this house. There's an allegedly dodgy builder involved. Apparently there's a lot wrong with the house. I don't know. I know some of it, but there's a court case going, so I'm not going to go into that. That's really none of my concern. Our concern was that they excavated 1.4 metres into our block, which meant we can't landscape, we can't fence, we can't enjoy our property to the extent that we should. And her issues became our issues. And it's a single lady. Felt terribly sorry for her because she is building her dream home, like we all are, I suppose. But at the end of the day, after many false starts that included, you know, can we leave some materials on site, on your site, so we can get this thing built, that then sat there for 6 months while nothing happened. I got council involved. Council were involved since late January last year. It's been a very slow ongoing process, and the reason I went through council instead of just going for the legal route was that my legal advice was this sort of thing is a really costly thing for everyone involved, and at the end of the day the outcome that you're after isn't monetary. You're just after a retaining wall built so everyone can get on with their life. Council out here are very softly with how they deal with things. The legal advice I also had was that they probably will do 3 or 4 orders to complete before they start enforcing monetary penalties. Apparently late last year there was a monetary penalty placed. I don't know if it was enforced, but it got to the point where in November of 2022 I advised the owner quite abruptly that if this rolls into next year we will be letting the lawyers loose, and I think at around the same time council's got pretty narky too. So within a week and a half, what you see here was put up. It was very roughly backfilled, which I've sort of been spreading out myself, and we can actually walk to the boundary of our property. And we know that everything is supported and supported well. This retaining wall has cost an absolute mint. There was a version before this where they were going to tear the house down because they wanted to start again, and the cost on that version of the retaining wall I heard was $500,000. Now this version wouldn't have been cheap either. The steel posts that go down are 3.9 metres long. As I said, there's about 1.4 metres hanging out of the ground. The footing, They've also put in a footing that's 1 metre wide and 1 metre deep, and that's full of Rio and concrete. So it ain't going anywhere, and where it doesn't have the footing, it's into solid sandstone, and it's been piered through into solid sandstone. And to pier, I was watching the guy one day, because there's been numerous contractors here over the period. One, I'd say, was half decent. The rest of them have all been, let's smash it out and get on to the next job. The state that this property is in at the moment is atrocious, but to pier one of those holes in the sandstone took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. He was just grinding away to get in a hole about yay big. So it's been a massive job, but it's done now. We can move on. It has been an exceptionally stressful year. I'm just glad this is over, and we can fence. So that's the elephant in the room. That's why we've sort of sat around and waited for something to do, and why we've had this post-nuclear holocaust landscaping aesthetic. But anyway, that's not what we've got in the front yard now. So let's have a look at some more positive stuff. Now, I was never going to do the fencing. It was always going to be a contractor job, but because of the issues next door, it was like, let's just jump in and do what we can until we run out of dirt, which is what we've done. So we've got two 2.4 metre panels down the end of the retaining wall, where in a previous version of the retaining wall saga, they'd put up 3 panels of retaining and backfilled it so we could put up two 2.4 metre panels of fence. Down here on the dogleg at the front of the house, this was original land slope, so we could put in 6 panels. They're all 2.4, there's one shorter and there's one 3 metre panel that I had to cut down, but it's worked out quite well, very happy with it. Now, putting up these fences is really simple. They're just like a Lego set. You've got U-channels, everything's U-channels for the framing. The posts, if you're continuing the fence on, you just screw back to back the U-channels. The top and bottom sections are U-channels, and they just slide in and screw into the posts. The fence section, the panels themselves, for a 2.4 metre section, there's 3 of them. They just all slot in. And I've put in 2 bags of concrete for each post. Each post is about 700 deep, so they're not going to go anywhere. And to do the complete section here, where there's 6 panels, was about $1,100 plus concrete, when concrete's about $10 to $12 a bag. So very cheap to do. I was quite amazed with how cheap it is. Now we have the retaining wall. I think yesterday the supplier opened, and I'll start ordering some more so we can finish it off. And once it's all finished off, whatever happens next door is this now concern. We can get on with our life and landscape, and it should be happy days. Now, at the lowest end of our property, we have to have, by law, what they call a rain garden. And basically, runoff from our gutters and the like is funneled down to here. It fills up a pit, that overflows. The garden itself is fairly deep. It's got a thick layer of sand, then a membrane, and then a layer of dirt with water-loving plants in it. So once the pit overflows, it goes into the surrounding areas, soaks it all up. The plants like it because they like being wet, and when that overflows, it goes into another pit and out. So it stops a lot of the runoff that you get in housing estates. Now, I've retained around the pit with local sandstone that I've picked up out of excavations for houses that they were just going to take away and dump. It fits in with the area, so it's quite good. Around this, I've also dug out and put in a retaining wall, treated pine retaining wall, and we've got a car parking area and parking for a trailer here. Now, you'd think the first thing you'd get done in a new house once you got the driveway done is just to turf the lot and worry about your garden beds later. It's you're making a real job for yourself, because tearing up turf isn't fun. I've done numerous ways over different years with different houses, and what I've found the best way to do is get all your hard surfaces done, get your garden beds done, and get your garden beds edged. Putting a good edge on a garden bed you'll love it for years, because it makes it so very easy to maintain your lawn. And with this, you can just whip a snipper up to this, and it's not hard or sharp, so you're not tearing off your whippersnipper cord. It's just a really nice way to do it. Lots of different edging you can use. For me, I wanted something that faded into the background, that wasn't prominent. If you use like, in the past I've used bricks on edge, and that's a bit of a statement on this house, because I want it to be a little bit more natural. I just wanted something very thin that faded into the natural areas. So what I've used is Cordon. Cordon is an architectural steel. There's lots of different places that do it. I've sourced this through Formboss. They're an Australian company, and it's sold through my local nursery. It's not cheap. For a 2.4 metre length, this is $50 now. It has gone up since I started to buy it, but it is so very good, and it'll last forever from what I can see. But once you put it down, it rusts up within 48 hours. It looks really good. But to put this in, to join the lengths, they've just got offcuts, and this has got a rolled edge on it, and the offcuts do because they're just an offcut of this. And you just put the offcut in upside down, slide it into the rolled edge, and then put screws through it. And the screws you affix to this, I've used 10G by 16 hex head screws. These are galvanised, so there's no problem with them being in contact with soil. But you just take your joiner, clip it in, and this is another joiner, but let's think that's another 2.4 metre length. Join it up as such. Put in a couple of screws on the face down low, so they're hidden. And off you go. To bend this stuff, you can just put it over your knee. If you mark the start and finish of your corner radius, if you want to put a corner in it, you can just bend it over your knee and slowly bend it, and you can get a really nice bend doing that. I had a 90-degree bend up here with a nice curve in it, and I've got a Jeep with a spare wheel on the back, and I just bent it over the spare wheel, and it worked out really good. A tip for that, put your joins on a flat section, not on a curve. You'll get a much better result if you do. But I've found, before you want to affix this to the ground, you actually want to get all your bends in and get it sitting nicely. But to affix it, they sell these pegs. They're $5.20 each. So you can see how this is mounting up. And the pegs, again, just slip into the curve section, and you can screw them in. What I've found is, if you get the actual garden edge sitting nicely with all the bends and everything that you want, you then just go behind this and hit these into the ground, so you're not hitting the garden edge, and then just lift it up and clip it in and screw it in then. And that's the best way I've found to do it. But to do this whole area in garden edging has been about $500. So it ain't cheap, but it should last forever. Now the last thing you do is put down your turf. But before you do that, I've put down 8 tonne in this little area here of topsoil mix. That's a mix of 70% sand, 30% topsoil. And I've sculpted the area to give myself a nice fall, because it was a bit sharp at the top, and I've taken out some of the valley, and it makes it really easy to mow. I have mowed this about 3 times now. I didn't go overboard with trying to get a golf course level on it. I've spread out the turf as best I can, leveled it off, and given it a bit of a hose to get a little bit of a crust on it, because a lot of the time when you're getting thicker parts of a topsoil, it's very soft, especially in that sand soil mix, and you'll go through it. So just giving it a bit of a water puts a little bit of a crust on it, makes it easier to sort of walk on it. Because I've sculpted the area, we've probably got anywhere between 50 and say 130 mils of depth of that topsoil. And once we got that to the point that I wanted it, we've laid our turf over it. Now with the grass, we've gone with a Tiff Tuff Bermuda, which is a couch. It's a hybrid grass. It's worked really well, really happy with it. It's very soft to touch, it's nice to walk on and sit on. I've had a bit of a small test patch around the backyard that we originally did this time last year, and I haven't put in that much effort into looking after it, and it's been really good. But I also find that it responds well if you do look after it. So if you top dress it and give it a fertilise and good water, it responds very, very well. I do have a few high spots, and you can see where the mower's just chipped at those. I will top dress it once it settles in, but it's, you know, it's like it's been here for years at this point with how it's rooted into the ground. It took about a week till you couldn't really pull it up any, and that's when I gave it its first mow. I've been pouring the water into this because it's really hot and sunny. Well, we're having days of it anyway, and I find during those days, if I give it a really good soak in the morning, it responds well during the day to that. So far, very, very chuffed with this, and it's just really nice to come out and sit on and having some lawn. So yeah, very, very happy with it. We'll see how it goes though. Now with plantings, we're screening the edge with some lily pillies. We've got some native Tasreds down here, they're just a grassy plant. And moving down to the decking. This is decomposed granite. I have to redo this and do that around the back of where the letterbox will be, and I have to actually build the letterbox. So that these are on the to-do list. Again, Tasreds, some Banksia birthday candles, Gymea lilies, more Tasreds, more Banksia ground cover, some small hedging. This is a small flowering gum that comes out in red berries, so that should be quite nice. Down here where the car parking spot is, we've got lily pillies that'll be hedged so you won't see the car or the trailer. We've got a native tuckaroo tree that comes out in orange berries. That's a small to medium tree. And down in the rain garden, this road base here will be replaced with the decomposed granite that I've got some up there. I've put the road base down just to settle the area down, and once it's settled and it looks as though it is, we'll just put the final top dressing on. And at this point we may stain the sleepers black here too, but we'll see how we go with that. And in the rain garden, that's just planted out with some native grasses. And I've got to put some pebbles down over that. But as you can see, it's coming together quite well. And the only really bad bit we have now is up here. So now you know where I've been for the past 6 to 8 weeks. Really, really busy here, just finishing off as much as what I can. Hopefully now I can throttle back a little bit and get back into a little bit more of the general stuff that we do on the channel. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.